Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different, sort of like emotional archaeology.
Emotional archaeology, I like
Yeah,
that.
because we're not just looking at our own lives or even our parents, we're going way back, centuries maybe.
Right.
We're digging into material from Brian Post, looking at how our whole ancestral line shapes how we feel right now. Especially, when parenting gets tough. Usually when we feel that stress, that frustration, or maybe just total overwhelm, we think it's about now.
Yeah, the immediate thing. The
Yeah.
kid defying you, the argument you just had.
Exactly. Or maybe we think, okay, it's how my mom or dad reacted way back when.
Sure, that's common.
But Brian Post says this whole emotional matrix we're in, it's much, much wider than that. It pulls in generations of stuff we weren't even aware of.
And this is where, it gets really striking. Brian Post points to actual research suggesting trauma.
Yeah.
It isn't just a bad memory.
Okay.
It can apparently be tracked, passed down in our genes.
Wait, like literally in our DNA.
That's the claim. We could be talking about survival stuff coded in us from like 14 generations ago.
14. That's huge.
Massive. Think about what that means. You might have this like intense panic about something small today. And that panic, it might not really be about the thing happening right now. It could be an old echo, a survival thing that helped someone way, way back in your family line.
So we're carrying their fear, their anxiety.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Their experiences of scarcity, of danger,
Yeah.
it's potentially part of our operating system today.
Okay. Let's unpack this because that really changes things, doesn't it?
It does.
Our daily frustrations. Maybe they're not just our failings. Maybe they're like inherited burdens.
That's the perspective Brian Post offers.
Okay.
So when your child lies or, won't get dressed or is just pushing all your buttons.
And you feel that massive surge of anger or just that feeling of being completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, that feeling, we assume it fits the crime, so to speak, that it's proportional to what's happening. But Brian Post argues it's often not proportional. That intense, mad feeling. It could be coming from what he calls a generational place.
A generational place.
Yeah. It's like an old survival alarm going off because of something minor. You're not reacting to, say, the socks on the floor. You might be plugging into the piled up stress of your grandparents or your parents, or even stress signals you picked up before you were born in utero.
Wow. So we're kind of the end point of all these experiences.
Especially the tough ones, yeah. The ones rooted in threat or lack.
Yeah.
Brian Post really encourages you, the listener, to pause when that big feeling hits.
Just stop for a second.
Yeah, slow down and ask yourself, is this reaction really about this specific moment? Or is there maybe a much older story, one I don't even know, fueling this level of, distress?
That pause.
That conscious pause, he says, is where conscious parenting really begins.
Okay, but I have to say, if we're talking 14 generations, that sounds incredibly complex. Like, how do you even begin to manage that in the middle of a meltdown?
Right, sounds overwhelming. But Brian Post actually offers a pretty simple way to cut through it. And it starts with just being clearer about our words.
Words.
Yeah, he makes this really key distinction between emotions and feelings.
Okay. I think I've heard this before. He says there are only two main emotions the body recognizes. Is that right?
That's his framework, yeah.
But hang on, only two. I mean, what about deep sadness or grief or intense joy? That feels a bit too simple, maybe.
It's a fair point. But the way Brian Post frames it, it's about the body's fundamental state, its most primal level. Is it safe or unsafe?
Okay.
So the two core emotions are love, which he sees as thriving energy, being open, feeling safe,
Right.
and fear, which is surviving energy, closed off, protective, kind of ready for a fight.
Love thriving, fear surviving. Got it.
Then everything else, anger, sadness, jealousy, shame, frustration, resentment, all of it. He calls those feelings. And feelings, in his view, are how our brain interprets or labels those two basic energy states. They're the cognitive perception.
So, like, frustration is my brain's label for a low-level fear of not getting things right.
Exactly. Or maybe shame is the feeling linked to the fear of being pushed out, of not belonging.
Okay, now, here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Because this reframes every single struggle, doesn't it? When you feel that intense frustration with your kid, you don't need to get lost in the million reasons why they're being difficult. You just ask one thing. Is this feeling, this label my brain is using, rooted in love, in thriving? Or is it rooted in fear, in surviving?
Precisely. And the power in that is it tells you where the work needs to be done instantly.
How so?
Well, if your response is coming from fear of surviving, your brain thinks there's a threat. So your actions are going to be about protection, reaction, probably control.
Trying to shut the situation down.
Yeah. But if the root is love thriving, you're coming from a place of connection, support, openness. Brian Post really challenges parents to use this simple binary for, like real-time self-checks.
Which leads right into the first big question he poses. And this one, it needs some real honesty.
It does.
He asks, what is one challenging feeling, remember, the cognitive label that you've been avoiding? Really trying not to feel.
Maybe it's feeling inadequate or really lonely or maybe deep shame about something.
Right. And once you can actually name that feeling you avoid.
Then come the crucial follow-ups. First, just state the feeling. Get it out there.
Yeah.
Second, ask, which primary emotion, love or fear, is underneath this feeling?
Okay, an example.
Sure. Let's say my avoided feeling is constant anxiety about money.
Yeah.
Okay, name it. Anxiety. Then what's the root emotion? It's fear. Right. The fear of not having enough, of scarcity, maybe inherited from those 14 generations we talked about. And Brian Post says, face this. Don't run from it. Write the feeling down. Ask yourself, where did this start in my life? Or what story did I learn from my parents that feeds this feeling?
Looking for the story behind the feeling.
Exactly. Because tracing that story, understanding its origins,
Yeah.
that's what can stop the chain reaction.
Yeah.
If you realize, say, the shame you feel when your child struggles at school isn't just about them, but it's your fear of being judged as a parent.
Ah, okay.
That awareness gives you a choice. You can respond from connection. Hey, this is tough for you, instead of from control. You need to try harder.
So doing that work stops the old pain from basically hijacking the present moment.
You got it. Which brings us neatly to the second big question Brian Post asks parents. And this one challenges why we react the way we do when our kids are upset.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yes. When your child is having big emotions, anger, sadness, tears, the whole lot, do you usually step in to soothe them for their sake, or honestly for your own?
Oof, that's a tough one.
It is. It's a mirror that's hard to look into, because we all like to think we're being selfless, nurturing.
Of course, we want to help our kids feel better.
But Brian Post suggests that often that quick impulse to soothe, to fix it, to make the crying stop, it's actually about us. It's unconscious self-regulation.
We jump in to stop the noise, stop the behavior, make it go away.
Yeah. And the mechanism behind it is key. Think about your brain's fear center, the amygdala.
The smoke detector, you called it earlier.
Exactly. When someone near you is in turmoil, yelling, crying loudly, just radiating distress, your amygdala fires off. It signals danger. It doesn't know if it's a real threat or just intense feelings. It just screams, unsafe, unsafe.
So when my kid is melting down,
Your smoke detector goes off. You feel at risk, even if consciously you know everything's fine. And because you feel unsafe.
my instinct is to make the danger stop.
Right. So you try to control the child's behavior, stop the crying, stop the yelling, stop the stomping, whatever it takes to make your environment feel safe again.
So Brian Post's question is, if that's what I'm doing, trying to shut down the emotion immediately, who am I really doing that for?
Precisely. If you're focused on controlling their expression, it's likely not helping the child learn to navigate their big feelings. It's about making you feel safe in that moment.
Wow. Okay. That distinction, being present for them versus controlling for me, is huge.
It really is. And he illustrates this perfectly with a story about his 2-year-old grandson.
Right. The grandson story. Let's hear it.
So, the little guy is watching his dad leaves through this big glass door. Dad closes the door, leaves. The toddler realizes Dad is gone.
And cue meltdown.
Big time. He gets furious, falls down, apparently bumps his head a bit in his rage, and just starts screaming. Pure anger.
Okay.
Now, Brian Post and his guest, a guy named Mike, are sitting right there watching this. And here's the crucial part, the moment of choice.
What did they do?
They paused
They just paused.
while he was screaming.
Yeah. My instinct, like yours, probably would be soup him up, check the bump, distract. Right.
Totally. Make it stop.
But Brian Post describes just sitting there for a moment. He and Mike, letting the grandson be fully in his anger. He mentally checked, okay, the child's physically safe. He doesn't need immediate rescuing. What he needed was for his feeling to be seen, to be allowed.
He needed presence, not fixing. Exactly. So after that pause, after being truly present with the child's feeling, then Brian Post acted. He picked the boy up, said calmly, "You're okay,"
Acknowledge the feeling.
and then connected to the trigger. He recognized the anger was about the closed door blocking access to Dad. So he opened the door, set the child down.
And let him go find his dad.
Yep. And apparently the child stopped crying almost instantly.
Yeah.
The need underneath the anger connection access was met.
That's powerful. The pause made all the difference.
It allowed him to respond to the child's actual need instead of reacting to his own internal unsafe signal triggered by the crying.
So the takeaway here for you, listening, is really about focusing on your own first reaction, that internal flinch when things get loud or intense.
Right. Brian Post emphasizes being present, being connected, supporting the child where they are, rather than reacting quickly just to calm down your own stress, your own anxiety about their big feelings. And if we kind of zoom out and connect this back, the whole shift Brian Post is pushing for is pretty fundamental, isn't it?
It feels huge, yeah.
Just recognizing that our reactions today might have roots going back 14 generations, tied up in survival.
And that our main tool is simply seeing the difference between those core emotions, love and fear.
Yeah. Making that conscious distinction.
Yeah.
That's the key, he argues, to breaking old patterns in parenting from a place of thriving, not just constantly surviving.
So what does this all mean for you? How do you actually use this? I think the challenge is putting it into practice.
In the heat of the moment.
Exactly. So the next time a really big, difficult feeling comes up, maybe that blinding anger or feeling totally useless, Brian Post would say, don't just react.
Don't act on the feeling immediately.
Right. Just try to breathe, pay attention inside yourself, and ask that core question. Am I operating from love right now, from thriving energy, or is this fear, the survival energy taking over?
Just asking the question can create that crucial space.
It can. And okay, here's a final thought for you to maybe chew on this week. Think about a difficult conversation you might need to have.
With anyone.
Anyone. Your partner, a colleague, maybe your teenager. Now, what if you went into it holding this idea? Recognizing that their reaction, and maybe more importantly, your reaction to their reaction, might be driven by really old, deep-seated fear, that ancient survival wiring, the amygdala just trying to keep everyone safe by shutting things down or fighting back.
How does knowing that possibility change things?
Yeah. How does that knowledge change what you might do in that first impulsive second? Would you choose the pause? Choose connection instead of control? Something to think about. We'll see you next time.